You're listening to the Zen Sandwich Podcast. From social observations to travel stories, this is a show that inspires mindfulness, humor, and a realistic approach to a Zen lifestyle in the 21st century. My name is Mark Reed. I'm a former college professor and lawyer. I now live in Japan and make handmade paper. This is your source for 5-minute Zen and other content to start your day, learn something new, or get a different perspective on life in this rapidly evolving modern world. Hey, here we are. You're listening to episode 2, From Baptist to Buddhist. So what's an episode like that? What's in it for you? Hopefully an awareness of your phenomenal ability to change your life in a moment. Last episode I quoted Alan Watts, and I don't want to go to the well too often, but he's got another one that's spot on here. He says, "You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago." And think about that. It's a true statement. And why is that important? Because if you're unhappy about something, and you want to change who you are fundamentally, you can. I think we stay in our mode of being a lot of times out of expectation or what other people expect us to be. But you're under no obligation to continue being somebody you don't like. Growing up in the Deep South in Birmingham, Alabama, I had no more choice over my religion in the beginning than a Hindu child born in India, an atheist in China, or being Jewish in Israel. I was a Christian, and my particular flavor was Baptist. Now, let me be clear here. Though I've made certain transformations in my life, I have no agenda here to convince anyone to make a similar transition. I'm merely illustrating that I did so and that you also can make whatever transition is important and relevant to you. It doesn't have to be religion. It could be politics. It could be the people that you're surrounded by. Maybe you have some negative friends that tend to bring you down all the time, but you're afraid to detach from that environment. That's my only point or agenda here, is to illustrate that radical transformation can take place within you. So back to my story. I went to school. I later traveled. I lived in other states. I lived in Vermont, California, Florida. I lived in other countries. I lived in Greece for a while, South Korea, Japan before now, and in London, England. Over time, through education, travel, experience, I began to see that the narrative I had grown up with was very particular, and it was attached to my geography, the place where I grew up. I began to see that religion is as much a cultural phenomenon, a sociological one, as it is a spiritual one. You certainly can get the spirituality side from a particular religious tradition like Baptist Christianity. You can. The pure objective message is there to love your neighbor, to forgive, to be giving. All of that stuff is there. But I recognize that a lot of that pure message is sometimes muddied by social, cultural, or even political agendas. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is to be mindful. And not only of your immediate surroundings. A lot in Zen Buddhism we talk about being mindful and being mindful of everything around you, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the feelings of people. Judge the air in the room, so to speak. But in this instance, I mean being mindful of who you are and deep down inside. How much of that has been programmed? And what's the real you beneath these layers of cultural rhetoric that you were, that I was, that all of us were spoon-fed since birth? To realize this is not a negative, by the way. On the contrary, it's liberating. I'll repeat the Alan Watts quote from before. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. So here's your 5-minute Zen. Practice mindfulness. Not only looking within, but also be mindful of what others say. Listen to what people say and evaluate the cultural, social, or political agenda that might be going on. And maybe they're not even aware of it. And I'm not saying judge anyone. I better get a mirror before I judge anyone, that's for sure. I'm just saying evaluate and realize, be mindful. And listen to the crazy shit that is said on both sides of the political spectrum. Now, I have my own political views, and you may consider yourself conservative or liberal. It doesn't matter to me. What I'm asking, is that you consider whether those views are yours or are they from your environment. And that's what I want to encourage here, is to be independent, to free your mind. Regardless if you consider yourself conservative or liberal, consider the other side. You may still disagree with the other side, but at least have a willingness to try to understand the other side's rationale. You'll get more joy out of life when you release yourself from political attachments and cultural attachments and discover who you are genuinely as a person beneath all of those layers that were put on us from the time we were born. And that's all for this episode. This is a continual practice, not a goal. I have to do it too, to release myself from the socially constructed worldview of my childhood. I still have to do it every day. But enjoy the process. And don't worry about attaining some end goal of enlightenment. Just do it. Be sure to join our Facebook group, The Zen Dog Life. You can find us through a search. You answer 2 questions, you're in the group. Check out zensandwich.com. And be sure to join me again for episode 3. Next time, the topic is assessing the probability of truth. That sounds esoteric, but it's not. Hopefully, you'll gain some insight on how to interpret a percentage of just how true or untrue something is.